A probe contaminated with Earth life crash-landed on one of Jupiter's moons, Amalthea. The life on board was a resilient extremophile known as Deinococcus radiodurans that slipped the contamination checks on Earth. Despite the extremely harsh conditions, the small culture of bacteria was able to find a foothold and began to slowly adapt to the conditions of its new home. In the previous episode, I talked about some of the adaptations taken by the bacteria to better survive and the emergence of the first organism truly able to survive on Amalthea. I strongly recommend checking out that video first if you haven't already. The organism, named Vachivus sextus, meaning void 6, would be the first truly extraterrestrial organism to emerge. While not technically alien, Vachivus sextus is an organism adapted to truly alien environments. And what an environment it is! A desolate, potato-shaped, porous water-ice rock, Amalthea is one of Jupiter's 53 named satellites and is the third closest moon to Jupiter in proximity to the planet. It is the fifth largest moon in the Jupiter system and is covered in craters, hills, and ridges. It takes 12 hours to make a full orbit around Jupiter with only 6 hours of sunlight per orbit. Even though Saturn gets all the attention with its ring system, dust ejected off the surface of Amalthea by micrometeor impacts has created a faint ring around Jupiter known as the Gossamer Ring. Amalthea is still quite a bit smaller than the 4 Galilean moons, even though it is the 5th largest moon around Jupiter. Despite its size, there are plenty of unique niches that remain out of reach to the fledgling species. So far, bacterial colonies of Vachivus sextus grow to cover only the sunniest areas, like a disturbing quilt. The sunlight is weaker out this far into the solar system, so sunny areas are highly populated. And with only 6 hours of sunlight per orbit, competition among colonies is ruthless. Over time, colonies become segmented or separated from each other through micrometeor impacts, forming islands of a sort that dot the surface of Amalthea. Consistently sunny areas remain the only place Vachivus sextus colonies could survive, so many colonies died after even small changes in their environment. However, this archipelago, so to speak, did yield successful results as well. One colony began to structure itself to better capture light, allowing it to inhabit more complex landscapes such as the sides of rocks and steep hills. This colony, we'll call Vachivus adept, was a highly collaborative one, able to organize into structures easier than other colonies on Amalthea. It was simple, just angling the colony towards the highest source of light, but it proved to be an efficient strategy, and that small extra advantage allowed the colony to proliferate and adapt more efficient light-capturing structures. Another colony adapted to become more efficient at processing light into energy. It became a more robust species, adapting thicker cell walls and showing the beginnings of a concentrated point for light collection on its surface. When the colony split, one segment grew larger and became the largest colony on Amalthea, named Vachivus magna. It measured up to 10 centimeters. A different segment of that colony, known as Vachivus humulus lux, was smaller and able to survive on less sunlight. Ravines and certain cratered areas opened up as possible areas to colonize. It is these 3 specialized colonies that grew into the dominant form of life on Amalthea. Without the competitive advantages of these specialized colonies, the quilts of Vachivus sextus were slowly overtaken by their successors. More robust and better adapted, life on Amalthea begins to get truly exciting. Our first major colony, Vachivus adept, known for better structuring itself to catch light, was the first species to overtake the sunny territory of Vachivus sextus. It was successful on flat terrain as well as rocky and slanted. Its organizational abilities were passed to its descendants, who could structure themselves to the needs of the specific environment, kind of like a flower growing towards the light. Its competitor, descendants of our second colony, Vachivus magna, the largest and most robust on Amalthea, is vying for the same territory. Equipped with the ability to process sunlight more efficiently, colonies in sunny areas grow to huge sizes. The secret to this solar processing ability comes from specialization within the colony and organization into a sunspot. Functioning like a biological solar cell, this spot is specialized to process sunlight and has become very good at it. The 2 solar-dominant species have established territory in the sunny niches of Amalthea, blanketing the landscape in a mismatch of colonies. Their brutal struggle for dominance only spurs their evolution towards more complexity. Meanwhile, descendants of the third major colony, Vachivus humulus lux, have been busy. Adapted to live in lower light conditions, this species also uses a sunspot, but grows far smaller and retains more energy and moisture through thicker cell walls. It is the only organism that can survive in such conditions, and therefore can expand unencumbered by competition from other species. Of course, competition among its own species does force adaptation. With thick cell walls, complex structures could be achieved by colonies attempting to better orient their sunspots. One colony adapted to grow taller, pushing its sunspot above any obstructions to light. Another produced branches and could shift their sunspot to different sections of the colony depending on need. These 2 new species could inhabit even less sunny areas and tended to thrive there, despite their abilities to thrive in high light conditions. They were uncompetitive against the species of Vachivus adept and magna. The darker areas of Amalthea remain barren, only just beginning to be explored by the 2 adapted species of Vachivus humulus lux. It was one of these colonies that suffered a mutation when repairing its genome, which led to specialized cells that siphoned energy from the rest of the colony. This new organism was entirely dependent on a host colony to survive. It specialized to form thick cell walls and embed itself in colonies of Vachivus humulus lux and its offshoots, the beginning of our first predator on this world. Thanks for tuning into Weird Universe. If you want to hear more about my spec evolution project, be sure to subscribe. It really helps out. And check out my other videos.